take that as a no. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Taruna Gupta, committee member of Women in Design and Architectural Designer at Growth Design Group. First of all, Happy New Year to all, and welcome to our first event of 2021. We're excited to have you here, and thank you for continuing to support Women in Design by attending our virtual events. We have some great programming in the upcoming months, so make sure to check our website and our social media for frequent updates. Registration is also open for our February speed mentoring events. We're looking for both students and professionals to sign up, so do check that out. For today's event, we partnered with ACE Mentor Program of Milwaukee. You will hear from ACE board members, the talented mentors, and ACE Mentor graduate and current Marquette University student Carlos Cavada. I'd like to thank the entire ACE team for putting this together. And here to talk about ACE is Paula Verbumen. Paula is a design principal and office director of HGM Milwaukee. Some of her notable projects in the Milwaukee area are Discovery World, Butterfly Vivarium at Milwaukee Public Museum, Milwaukee County Zoo Education Center Elephant Exhibit. She's one of the founding members of the ACE Milwaukee program and has started the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee School of Architecture and Planning as a guest lecturer and studio reviewer. She feels strongly about encouraging and mentoring the next generation of design professionals, and we hope by the end of this presentation, some of you will as well. Over to you, Paula.
Taruna, thank you so much. And here you are thanking ACE Mentor when we really should be thanking you for first for what you did for us in December, including us in your Gives Back program. That was very thoughtful of you, and that kind of blossomed into this program that we have tonight, which is really nice to have this partnership with you. So thank you very much for that. And as you were describing the programs and as we were upcoming programs and as we were sort of chatting beforehand, I was trying to make our presenters at ease tonight by saying, it's really laid back, it's high quality programming, but it's actually a lot of pressure to be presenting here with Women in Design. But thank you nevertheless, we really appreciate it. So as Taruna mentioned, we're trying to keep this hour and 20 minutes or so interesting. So we'll hear from lots of voices and lots of people that we're excited to hear more about women in design too. So I am going to turn the early part of this over to Monica Warhide. Monica has a national role for ACE Mentor. She is the national affiliate coordinator, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about what she does, but a little bit about Monica, and this is proof for anyone who started out in design and ended up in an alternate career. Monica has a background in her early career as a designer and then went to work for AGC as their program coordinator, and actually started the Iowa affiliate of ACE Mentor, and then grew into a role of being an advocate for affiliates, and really helped us in Milwaukee get ACE Mentor off the ground. We wouldn't be where we are today without Monica paying close attention to us as a sort of a fledgling affiliate. So with that, I will turn it over to Monica, and I will hopefully advance the slides for Monica. Here we go. And Monica, don't forget to unmute yourself if you have muted.
Thank you. That's I think we all want a T-shirt that says "You're on mute" when we're on these things,
yes.
so everyone can read that. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Thanks for inviting me tonight to talk about the ACE Mentor Program of America. As Paula said, I started in the design arena and found myself wanting to go into the education and diversifying side of the building industry as a whole. So I went to work for the AGC as the director of education. And one of the projects we had there was to start this ACE Mentor program of Central Iowa. So ACE was founded in 1994. We celebrated our 25th anniversary a couple years ago. And it was founded by Dr. Charlie Thornton, he was the son of a bricklayer in New York and is now a world-renowned structural engineer. And his goal was to how do we show people, what the building industry entails as a whole? You think of building and often people think of hammers and that kind of thing. So how does the whole industry kind of come together? It just it started with one affiliate in New York and it spread across the country. Our mission is to kind of, like I said, engage, excite, and then support high school students. We're here to create a diverse and better prepared workforce. By assisting and guiding the students through high school, we help them through college, internships, and then ultimately full-time employment. But nationally, we serve 10,000 students a year with 4,000 volunteers. We're currently at 78 affiliates, and we're continuing to add new ones every year. Part of my role when I started with ACE was a regional director, and that was the central region. I started 6 or 7 new affiliates in my region. And then right before COVID hit, I was promoted to director of affiliate relations. And the goal was to hire a central regional director. That didn't happen. So I'm kind of serving dual roles right now with my affiliates. I have 19 in my region of the 8. One of the things that ACE is very proud of, I'm getting a notice that my connection is unstable. Am I still?
You were a little
hear me?
herky-jerky. We can.
Where did you lose me? I got a note that my internet was unstable.
I think we've heard everything so far. It did get a little choppy, but I think we've gotten every word.
And I probably had a very funny look on my face, Rosen. So I mentioned scholarships earlier, and collectively across the country, we award $2.5 million in scholarships. Now, a lot of that is done on the local level. So each affiliate of the 78 affiliates, Milwaukee being one, is pretty autonomous in their community to run the program, raise the money, and award scholarships. But that $2.5 million every year goes to seniors and alumni, and that just goes to kind of show you how many people we're reaching and the impact that the ACE Mentor program makes on students getting into college. And this doesn't need to be real formal. If anyone has any questions along the way, please interrupt me. I'll just go through a couple things. I mentioned diversity and better prepared workforce. For diversity, currently we survey our students and mentors every year. Where 1/3 of our students are young women and almost 70% identify as a minority. We're very proud of that number. I don't know many other programs that can definitively kind of state those statistics. Another one that we're very proud of is 1/4 of our ACE students are entering college. They're the first generation to do that in their family. So 1/4 of them, I think that's very important to know. Through the sessions, the students are introduced to all aspects of the industry. We strive to bring the diversity in both race and gender. And what we find is, as we all know, when it's hard for a student to imagine themselves in a job that they can't see themselves in, whether it's female or a minority, it's hard for them to see it. So when the students participate in these sessions and they're being mentored by diverse mentors, it allows them to really see themselves. Females especially, you think of the building industry, and I think that we have a lot of we've got a lot of room to grow on that, and I think I'm seeing it across the country, and I hope you all are there too. The other big aspect is to be better prepared, and one of the things that makes ACE unique is that we represent all disciplines. So it's not just architecture or design or structural engineering or construction. It's all the disciplines, and the students participate in a mock project that is often based in the local community, kind of lets them see and feel it and embrace it a little bit more. But they do this from start to finish. So they do it from site selection to conceptual drawings to estimating, scheduling, all the engineering. And so they really get the whole breadth of what it takes to build a building. Some students come in, think oh, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a contractor or something. And then they're like, oh, design's my passion. That's what I really want to do. And I didn't know there were 20 different kinds of design that you could do. So I love that we get to introduce them to how much is in our industry. The other thing is they get to work together as a team. And so they understand the dynamics of different minded people. I think we can all agree that an architect might think differently than a contractor, might think differently than a civil engineer. And so they get to kind of understand, and that's a pretty big interpersonal skill in communication. They get to understand the different ways people think, and that all of it's needed to build this building that they want to build or design or so.
Monica, you're foretelling a lot of our presentation, actually. It comes alive.
I'm sorry.
No,
okay.
It's okay. No. It just comes alive in what we have coming. Like, we didn't ask you to say all these things. So I'm glad we're doing what we're supposed to be doing in Milwaukee. That's good.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I was actually just going to finish up and I say, I know Brent, Paula, Amanda, Emily, Jordan, Carlos, there's a couple other folks on here. Tino, some mentors are going to talk about the Milwaukee affiliate, but I do want to say a huge thank you to that leadership team there. Paula, the entire board, especially the mentors. When they called me, I think it's been 4 years, from the very first meeting, we're getting this set up, and the tenacity and the support that they were able to garner in the Milwaukee area. Like I say, I see these all over the country, and it's been super impressive. And none of the affiliates would be able to, exist without that. So I just want to say a huge thank you to them, and thank you for you all letting me come and talk to you today. And now get to the good stuff, the Milwaukee.
Appreciate your being here, Monica. And I know you have a niece with a recital, so you may not, if you have a question for Monica and you haven't been able to ask it here, you can contact me or anyone else that's going to present, and we can hook you up with Monica.
Absolutely.
All right, next up, we're going to review quickly ACE Milwaukee's presence, or ACE Mentors' presence in Milwaukee, starting off with Brent Pitcher, who's going to provide an overview, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of our other sponsors, and we'll hear then from Amanda Larson, who is our school coordinator, who does a lot of heavy lifting, running interference between the mentors, the board, and the schools that participate in our program.
Okay, great. So this is Brent Pitcher. I am a civil engineer and vice president at Grafe here in Milwaukee. And windowing in a little bit more on the program in Milwaukee specifically, but really Greater Milwaukee is the chapter. And while right now we're going to talk a lot about Milwaukee County, because that's where our schools are currently located, in Milwaukee County and even in the city of Milwaukee. When we talk about room for growth in the future, we have room to grow further in southeastern Wisconsin. Madison is included in the charter for this chapter. So we are the only affiliate in the state of Wisconsin right now. Again, 25th year celebration recently overall. We're in the midst of our 4th year here in Milwaukee. So last year, we adjusted on the fly. The board of directors was on the phone on March 11th, deciding what to do for the final presentations that were planned for Thursday, the 12th. We're getting texts and pop-up notifications rolling in, NBA canceling their season, boom, boom, boom. So we decided to follow suit. But really, we were really only one of 3 programs that did the final presentation. So we quickly pivoted, we did it online, we videotaped it, and the program ended strong. So for last year, we had 60 students that started with the program in the fall. We ended up having 41 students that made it to the end, to the graduation. We had 7 schools that were involved last year, and then we had 31 mentors involved with the student program from 16 different firms in the greater Milwaukee area. So we'll show a little bit more detail later, but in the first 3 years, starting in 2017, we've doubled and then doubled again to grow the program, which has really been tremendous. So a little bit more about the board of directors. So the top 7 names on this list are returning board members. Give you a chance to just peruse the list. The top 4 board members are part of the founding group. Amanda, Tim, and I came a little bit later, but Adam, Paula, Bill, and Dave have been involved since 2017 from the beginning, and have done a lot of the heavy lifting, as Monica had indicated. Part of our growth this year has been an expansion of the board. So we added 6 new directors to the board this year, many of whom I think are on this call. I think I saw Scott, Emily, Jordan on the list. Not sure if Glenn, Bryce, and Bruce are, but we were really excited to welcome the new board members. And then with the bigger structure from an overall affiliate management, we were also able to add subcommittee structure. So we'll talk a little bit more at the end about ways that people can get involved. We now have subcommittee structures in place for event planning, for communications, for community relations, scholarships, and internships. So as we look ahead to the future, we are really excited about growing our organizational structure as we kind of pivot to a completely virtual setting this year, and we're really looking to double again in 2021 and 2022. So as you double and double again and then double, as you know, that the numbers just get bigger and bigger and bigger. So we're going to be looking for help on the mentorship side, committee side, as we move forward. But really has been exciting. We're about to get ready for our next strategic plan. But as we look back on this list of accomplishments in the last 3+ years, we really have hit our targets. We've gotten many firms involved. We've been fortunate to give out many scholarships to some great students, and it really has been an exciting 3.5 years. And with that, I will turn it back over to Paula, who is muted.
Yes, thank you, Brent. We support each other. So Brent talked a little bit about the board structure, but perhaps maybe even more important than the participation on the board, and certainly wouldn't be possible without the mentors who are mentoring the students. And so you see here a list of the representation of 16 organizations that have mentors who are participating as mentors in the program. And I was disappointed Monica didn't mention this. I thought she might, because I've heard her say it really eloquently, that one of Charlie Thornton's goals in the program was not only to mentor students, but also give early career people in our industry exposure to other people in other organizations and other industries, and a chance to get to know one another and actually be closer to the mentoring of the students. So the mentors primarily consist of what I would call early career folks, and you'll meet some of them in just a couple of minutes. I know Brent's name here might be hiding. No, see, one of our kind of needs that we might be alluding to and ask at the end of this presentation is architects have been the slowest of the professions to respond to the mentorship call. So if anybody knows of any architects or they themselves may be interested in mentoring, we could really use specifically architect mentors. So if anyone is inspired after tonight and you're an architect particularly, make sure to give one of us a ring. In addition to the mentors, we have found a lot of support throughout the city, as Monica kind of alluded to. So just a list of here, a number of the people who have allowed us to use their space, or even provided us with a building program for one of the projects that Monica talked about, Milwaukee food tours. Actually, it works out pretty well because school buses are really busy at the time that our transit is needed, and not too many people are doing food tours. So they have given us a bit of a deal on using their vehicles for transport. So at a minimum, these organizations have helped us grow in some way and have been a big foundational support to those first 4 years of our presence here in Milwaukee. I thought I saw a chat here. Do the mentors have to be licensed architects? No, they do not. Nope. And at this point, I will turn it over to Amanda Larson, who, as I alluded to, does the hard work of coordinating between the mentor activities and the board, and really boy, I know there's a verb there somewhere, interfacing between the mentors and the schools that are being mentored. So take it away, Amanda.
Thanks. So just to give a brief, I guess, overview of kind of like our vision for which schools we really have tried to recruit from. We wanted to, part of the vision from the board was to reach out to schools across different sectors, so public, private, and charter schools, and really open the opportunity specifically to students who come from low-income families, students from a diverse population. So you'll see on the map pretty well represented in terms of different parts of the city, as well as if you look even at the names of the schools, you see some Saint, or Augustine Prep doesn't have Saint anymore in their name, but that's also a private school. And then you'll see MPS schools like Golda Meir, and then you'll also see some charter schools there. We started a few years ago with only a couple schools, and primarily having Carmen students, for example, filled up most of our seats. But I've been really excited to see not only more students coming from the schools we've reached out to, but we've also seen an increase in people reaching out from outside of the schools that we directly partner with to provide their own transportation, for example, to come to the ACE sessions. And on the note of transportation, as Paula mentioned, the fact that we are able to partner with the Milwaukee food tours and provide transportation has really been a game changer when having conversations with schools, as many of our students do rely on either public transportation or school bus systems to get around the city. And so making sure that every student has access to this program, being able to get downtown and work in the offices with the mentors when we're not virtual has been a really awesome experience that makes the kids really just get investment kind of right off the bat, because they feel like it's a special treatment almost to be in this really amazing building with all these professionals, starting off as freshmen or sophomores in high school even, and really immersing them in that experience. So we're looking to increase our number of students and increase our number of schools going into next year. So we will keep adding all sectors and also reaching out to other students throughout the city, even outside those schools.
So the couple of noteworthy moments here in our history, we had the mayor come to the first presentation that we had, the end of project presentation. And actually you'll hear from tonight, this is Carlos, who was one of our students in that inaugural year. And then maybe it was our biggest year kickoff here, are a couple of board members and a couple of mentors with our Gilbane group. One of the other things that we have been able to do that has been pretty beneficial, as you can well imagine, for a select number of students who go through a competitive process to apply for an internship is to offer paid internships. Last summer, we were able to offer our highest number of paid internships despite it being the pandemic. And so if anyone is looking for ways to help, and this might be a potential way that someone could sort of find qualified interns for the summer, if anyone on the call might be interested in supporting ACE Mentor in that kind of way. It's very valuable, as you can well imagine, for ACE Mentor students to be able to get the experience of being in the office for a summer. And lastly, the other thing that Monica kind of alluded to, the dollar amount that is available, funneled through ACE Mentor from a national standpoint. But we were really proud of ourselves to have established a scholarship fund 2 years ago and awarded a scholarship in 2019. And we're actually, in addition to that, last year, won one of the national CMIC scholarships. So it was really almost kind of, it gets me very verklempt to know that what our mentors do, not only for the students, but they really help them craft their applications, and to be able to almost give that gift of allowing them to apply for a scholarship is quite amazing. See, I did get a little verklempt. So good time to turn it over. So at this point, probably the most exciting part of the presentation, two of the handful of mentors that have been with us from the beginning, Jordan Komp and Emily Nelson, and a host of other mentors, I think there's a couple more in here who have been here since the beginning, are going to walk you through what the program looks like, and then take us on kind of a mock journey. We're going to split off into some breakout rooms and be students for a bit. So I'll turn this over, I think, to Jordan and or Emily.
Yep. Thank you, Paula. So what we're going to go through real quickly is just sort of a big picture topic of what Monica mentioned, what we do with the students every week. So the sessions, we usually have about 8 in the fall and 8 in the spring. And the goals are really twofold. The first fall semester, what we're trying to do is just trying to teach them about our industry, right? You know, I think everyone in it understands how exciting it is and how many unique challenges and day-to-day interactions you get. So our challenge for the first half of the year is to try to educate the students on this, but also as you know, and anyone that has children, is to keep them excited, right? To keep these students, they're volunteering more or less to come to this session. So what we really try to focus on the first half is teaching them about it, but doing it in a fun or interesting way so that they come back every week, right? So we do things, you know, from site visits. Our first year we went to the Pfizer Forum when they were constructing it and just finishing construction. And one year we went to the Potawatomi, the new tower. And then we also bring in guest speakers, as you saw, that they've brought the mayor in. So what we try to do is get them excited about it and to keep them coming back for the second half of our curriculum, which is really the project work that Monica mentioned, where they get to put everything they used, you know, to task, and they get to develop a project. Usually we've done it something local. So for example, 2 years we did something with Marquette. A third year we did, I think that Emily's going to share with us in a little bit here, a tower that was downtown that the city's been trying to utilize for quite some time now. So, and then at the very end, I think you saw that presentation with the mayor from the first year. The students, not only did they get to practice these skills about learning about, you know, architecture, construction, and engineering, but then they also get to practice their presentation skills, and they get to show off to their family, friends, and other members of the industry. They get to show off all their hard work and all the work they've done for the past, you know, 20 weeks. So then, Paul, if you could go to the next slide. This is really just a overview of what the curriculum looks like. So you can see for the first month, really, we're just introducing to ACE in general, but then we're digging into each of the different disciplines, the architecture, the structural, you know, and each of the engineering, so mechanical, electrical, plumbing, design, fire protection, the trades, you name it. And if we have volunteers particularly, we will, you know, incorporate it. So if you're interested and you don't see your discipline specifically on here, please let us know and we'd be more than happy to include you. And then as we learn through all these, if you go to maybe, Paul, the next slide, what we try to do for each of these is we try to incorporate, let's say, an activity. So on the left, you see that was a site visit we did, and you can see all the students and you can see all the smiles on their faces, how excited they were to actually tour a building and get to go up and down with all the design professionals. What you see there on the right, that was the structural week. We have them build we see who can build the tallest tower out of marshmallows and spaghetti. And And I think the students really enjoy this one. I'll be honest, it gets a little sticky. The rooms get a little hot, and sometimes the towers end up falling apart. But it's what we try to do is have them get up, right? It's something where they can practice. It's a practical, tangible feel for all these things. And then if you go to the next slide, Paula, this is obviously with COVID, it's a little different. So you can see two examples on the right. Was pre-COVID, where we actually went to, this was Gilbane's office, and we have some PVC piping, and the students have to learn about how to, they're trying to create some budgets. And so what they're estimating there is they got to estimate how many man hours, and by hours, man minutes. So how many minutes it would take them to construct this PVC replica of the art museum. And then whoever has the low bid got to build it, and they were timed. And then as they inevitably, the first people underbid it, as they get to go to every group. And then whoever had the lowest bid was able to complete it wins. Obviously that's when we're in person. On the left there was a more unique and creative solution to, I think we mailed them some straws, or I think Amanda helped deliver them. But it was essentially an activity where the students got to learn about, you can see there the HVAC pressure, but really just pressure drops and how that relates to a lot of the engineering disciplines. But it was a way that was relatively, we'll say cheap and easy to do from home, that everyone could do it, but a way we could still sort of engage the students in some activities. And then Emily, you want to talk about the actual projects?
Sure, thanks, Jordan. So after the first half of the season, the students have a much better idea of what each discipline does. So the second half of the season is spent applying that newly learned knowledge to a specific project. So we spend most of the working sessions in smaller discipline groups, and it's just a chance to really give the students a chance to dive into the details of what that specific discipline would actually do on a real life project. So the way that we do that is we present a project and we try to keep it as realistic as possible to the actual process that we would use in the real world. So on the next slide, it goes through kind of our general process that we take the students through. So we go through major project milestones that occur on most or all real jobs. We give the students a request for proposal, again, modeled after something that all of us would probably see in our daily lives, daily jobs. We also bring in the owner. We let the students ask scope questions, get more familiar with the project. Similar to the real world, you work with your coworkers on your scope of work, but there's also a lot of coordination and interdisciplinary coordination that goes on behind the scenes. So we like to give students the chance to experience that as well. So for example, the mechanical team, if they want to put a big HVAC shaft right in the middle of the building, we have those students actually go over and they talk to the structural team and say, hey, we want to put a hole in the structure. It's this big, is that okay? And so they kind of work through that. And, maybe they talk to the architects too and say, we need a little bit more space for our mechanical room. Can you shrink up this room to accommodate that? So it's just kind of cool. It's a really fun chance to break down the processes that we do on a daily basis into bite-sized chunks, and we teach them to the students so they get familiar with what we do. All of these working sessions, they culminate in a more complete design, and then the students get a chance to present their final design in front of the owner group by the end. So this slide, this is the actual RFP that we presented to the students. It was a high-profile project. It was called the Gateway Tower. It was a triangular site. It's nestled in between where 794 and 94 intersect. So it's a triangular-ish site near Summerfest grounds. So just based on the location, very high profile, a cool project that the students were excited about. So this RFP, this is basically all they got, right? So they get this piece of paper, there's a general program and a rough schedule and a couple of goals. And the students take this information and they just run with it. So the next few slides, Paula can flip through kind of slowly, but this shows you, this is actual work that the students did. These are images taken from the presentation last year from one of the teams. So all of these ideas, all of these images, the students came up with on their own, and it's very cool. So they obviously had to work closely with mentors to learn how to use the programs. So this particular image I love. First of all, I just think it's a cool space. It's a cool idea, but I also remember the student who really worked on this. I don't know if it was during a session, after a session, during the presentation or something, but they were just really excited talking about all the different colors that they put into this interior space. And they were really excited about that watercolor mural on the top floor. So, you know, it's just cool seeing all of the work that the students do, and they come up with all of these ideas themselves.
And you all have like it's probably a 2-to-1 ratio of students to mentors too, right, Emily? I mean, you work really tightly and closely with the people that have chosen your discipline, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we've been joking this year. We tend to overpower the amount of students, especially, and in years past, you know, you'll do a breakout session and there's twice, if not 3 times as many mentors as there are students. So this is another cool image, again, taken from the presentation last year. This might have been Jordan's team maybe, but they developed that model, that structural model. So they learned how to use the program and worked closely with a mentor to do that. And then here's just a final screenshot from the project. This is from the construction team, learning how to develop a site plan and all the different topics that you have to think about. So this year it looks a little bit different for the final project. We are actually participating in the national competition this year. So this is the first time we've done this. This is our 4th year doing ACE in Milwaukee, but we've never participated in the national competition. So this will be fun. It's a cool experience for all of us to do, especially for the students that are returning. So ACE National, they put out an RFP every year. This year they gave us 3 options to pick from, and we selected the school renovation. So I don't have the verbiage in front of me, but the high level goal is to basically renovate an existing school to accommodate new COVID restrictions. So the school that we picked is a local high school. It's Cristo Rey Jesuit High School. It was completed, I believe, summer of 2020, so very recently. So unfortunately, their first inaugural year using the school, they went virtual. We just picked this project mostly because of how new it is. So we thought it was a cool perspective to look at a brand new design. And, you know, when they were designing this building 1, 2, 3 years ago, they never could have foreseen what we're going through now. So it's just cool with the timing and then the location. It helps put things in perspective to work on a local project.
Yep. And so, Paul, I believe we're going to break everyone up into teams, and you'll get just a little bit of a flavor of what. So this is actually one of the sessions we had with the students where we did pretty much what Emily just said. We introduced them. This is going to be the project, and we showed them the drawings, and we just got them to brainstorm really just off the bat. What does it mean to be, you know, more health and safety conscious for COVID, and just sort of brainstorm what ideas would you do to this school if you were having to retrofit it, because that's what we used as our springing off board for the project to kickstart some ideas. So I think, Paul, are we ready to break into groups? Is that?
Yes, I think so. Rem is going to launch us into our small groups.
Yep. What time would you like me to bring y'all back?
How about?
It's 6:14 right now.
6:14. How about 6:30?
Perfect. 15 minutes. All right. And let me know in the bottom right-hand corner. There'll be a call button. If you guys have any problems, just send me a message.
All right.
See you guys soon. Hey, Bill. Can you hear me, Bill?
Is everyone back? It looks like everyone's back.
Everyone should be back.
It's automated. Of course they're back. Well, the next thing that we have on our agenda was to have been Carlos, who, as I mentioned, I think was with us for 4 years. Is that right, mentors and Amanda? So he was intended to be here live tonight to talk with us, but he had to work. So we have a recording of Carlos. We interviewed him, Emily, and one of our other board members, Tim Jones, interviewed Carlos. So we'll play that interview of Carlos for you. But before that, I was wondering if the mentors wanted to close up at all by describing how their year wraps up, or any support that anyone might wish to have, or if anyone wants to call up and say, I'd love to be a mentor based on what I saw here today. If Jordan or Emily wish to kind of make any closing comments, you could certainly feel free to do so. But you'd have to unmute yourselves.
Yeah, sure. I won't take up too much time. Yeah, so maybe just how this will close out. So in a non-COVID year, this national competition at the end of March, the students have to create, the final presentation is two electronic boards that the national board votes on. And then the finalists, so I think they pick about 3 finalists for each one, actually get flown out to Washington, D.C., and they get a little bit of a trip, and they get to stay out there, and they get to meet some people. And usually, I think one year Colin Powell was the final presenter, so they get to meet someone a little bit famous. And then they select a winner. Unfortunately, we don't know quite how that's going to work yet this year with COVID, but essentially, big picture, for the next 2 months, the students will work on putting together these boards that will issue to ACE National, while at the same time we will have a final presentation locally. Depending on COVID, it seems maybe, Paula, likely that it'll still be Zoom, but they'll get to do it. And if anyone on here wants to be, we'll send out an invite. So if you want to see what these students did, you can absolutely join. If anyone, after hearing what we did here, would be more than happy, even if you you're on the fence a bit and you want to audit some of our sessions, we're more than happy to send you a Zoom invite, and you can join some of these sessions and maybe help us brainstorm with the students. And if you really are committed and you want to start, that's absolutely fantastic, and we're more than happy to have you. But either way, if you want to reach out to myself or Paula or Emily, we can absolutely get you involved, as soon as really you're interested in being involved.
All right, Rem, hopefully this isn't too bumpy. I think I need to click this share computer sound.
Yes.
And now just click Tim and play.
Well, hey, welcome. Great to see you, Carlos. I was glad that we were able to get connected for a virtual interview.
Megan, can you hear that? Rem says good. Okay.
Times that we're working through right now. So one of our ACE veterans, Carlos, you were with us for 3 years. Is that right?
Yeah, approximately 3 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about your 3-year experience with ACE.
So I remember the first time I was introduced to ACE, I was a bit nervous. I was like, what should I do? I usually don't go out of school. And I was like, this is my first time going to like a professional site, like with other professionals. I was like, how should I introduce myself and how should I like talk to them mostly? And that's like, when I got there, I was like, I have my classmates around me, so they might be able to help me out. We got into the building, right? And I was like, what a precious building. And that was the, what's it called? Not Bruno. The
HGA.
Gilbane. Wasn't it Gilbane?
We met at HGA for the first year.
HGA. But anyways, both buildings were amazing, built well, perfectly. But when I first sat down, I was like, these guys look amazing. They must have gone through like so many years of experience. I was like, I'm glad to be here.
One of the things that sticks out to me that was most notable about Carlos is when he first walked in is he shook everyone's hands.
I was a bit nervous though.
It didn't come across that way. You seemed excited. You're the only person to do that.
Well, I was looking forward to it though. But then what I most liked was like how you guys all like had your slides ready, like to talk about yourselves, like to give us a quick briefing. Like that was like the best part right there for the beginning.
So what specialties did you do over the 3 years? Did you mix it up?
So the first year I did architecture. I was like, let me try to get a brief like of architecture. Then the second year I was like, let's try architecture again. But then the third year I was like, I should probably mix it up. So then I tried some structural engineering, and I was like, this fits for me. I should go for this. So that's when that's why I went to Marquette for civil engineering.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So Carlos, I also know that in addition to the ACE curriculum that's available during the school year, that summer internships are available too, and you took advantage of that. So tell us about who you interned with and what that experience was like.
So my first internship there, my second year, was at Morganton, and that was a great experience because I was able to like talk to some like other architects, some other construction workers, and also my mentor. She was great. Jesse, I pray for you. You keep going up there, because every time I asked for help, she'd be like, yes, Carlos, I'm there for you. Even though I would be scanning things, I was still learning all the way, accounting and everything there. And I was also able to like visit some sites. Like, for example, they took me to like, you know how there's like traffic lights? They took me under there. Like, they showed me how everything worked, like the water pump, all the electricity. And I was like, wow, construction workers, like, they go through all of this. And I was pretty excited. And then, let's see. The other internship was like Bruno. And that really had a big impact on me. I was like, this is what they do all the time. They gotta like design all of this. They gotta go like on the schedule, order the parts, even weld them together. I was like, this is a big project. They must get ready together. And then they gotta send out the parts to the company. They can't like be late or anything. I was like, wow. Anyways, that was like a good experience on my hand.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a great experience at both places. You were lucky enough to internship at 2 different companies. That's super unique position to be in. So over the last, sorry, you can go.
I would do it again if I had the chance.
Awesome. So participating in ACE for 3 years, you were exposed to 3 different final projects. Did you have a favorite final project that you worked on?
To be honest, the first year was pretty interesting because like being able to design a dorm for students, it's like, it was pretty interesting. Like, we had to like so like, for example, where would the dorms go? Where would the main cafeteria go? And then the entrances, especially the emergency exits, like being able to like design all that was like pretty like amazing, you know? And also being able to cooperate with my classmates, like we all share something together, you know, like all our opinions together came over like this building in the end. And then overall, the second project that I loved the most was design for the 3rd year. Remember what's it called, like close to the Milwaukee Art Museum? It was like, we chose some pretty good shapes on there. We had three different floors, like one going vertical up, one a bit twisted up, and then like a rhombus up there. It was pretty interesting.
And you were on the structural team for the design that year, so you guys didn't make it easy on yourselves, did you?
No, because we were having some like, oh no, this pillar ain't going through here good, so we got to fix that. Because if you have different shapes on the building, you got to make sure that it doesn't topple over in the end. So the skeleton has to be perfect.
Oh, that's really great. So as you look back, Carlos, on your 3 years, is there any activity or moment or event that just kind of sticks out in your mind in those 3 years is something that that was really memorable for you as part of ACE?
So let's see. So for one activity that I liked the most was the marshmallow structural activity. You gotta make this building stand up. And I remember that my classmate JP, wow, mine kept falling over, but his was pretty tall. I was like, how'd you do that? Like, I was like, you must have gotten some rigged marshmallows there.
That's great. Marshmallows inspire our future structural engineer. That's awesome. Thanks, Carlos.
Yep, the foundation.
Well, that was great. It was awesome catching up. Great to see you, even though we're in the virtual realm right now. And I look forward to the day where we can catch up again in person.
So do I.
Awesome.
Yeah, so good to see you, Carlos.
Thank you for your time, guys. I'm glad I was able to. I'm glad I was able to talk to you guys.
Well, hey, welcome. Great.
Well, hopefully that gives you a little bit of flavor that the mentors provide to the students as part of the program. Carlos is really a special individual, and so are all of the other students that they've mentored. You can tell it. I was so fortunate to be able to see Jordan's face during that presentation. So I'm glad I was able to do that. That for me was a treat because I know you all were very close to Carlos. So before we close up, just a couple of thank yous that we have. One to MK Koenig, who works at HGA in our marketing group and does a lot to help us get things out on social. I think she helped support this Women in Design, getting this broadcast out. Remington, thank you very much for helping here. We wouldn't have been able to do those rooms without you. Thanks to all of you that helped put this presentation together and make the presentation. I know it looks really nice and smooth, but there was a lot of work behind it. So thank you very much. And then this wasn't meant to be a plea for lots of help, but a lot of times people want to know how they can help. So you heard become a mentor, donate money to the program. We provide dinner every time there's a session, at least when we're in person. So, and you heard a big expenses, transportation. We're looking for schools. You heard that from Amanda. So one of the hurdles to getting into a school is finding someone at the school who can liaise with Amanda. So connections at schools who can make this come alive in individual schools is something that we're sometimes looking for. Brent mentioned the committee structure that we have. So if you're interested in helping in a small way, and I think Jordan and Emily mentioned a few ways that people could kind of tiptoe into mentoring as well. So with that, I think the last part of this time that we have together, if you so share to continue spending it with us, is just kind of talk about any questions that people might have, or I suppose, yeah, questions, conversation.
Well, and monitoring the chat here, we just had our first mentor volunteer. So thank you for Brianna, and we'll get back to you and follow up. So.
Can one of the mentors talk a little bit about what the time commitment is typically?
Sure, yeah, I can take that. So just like what we said before, it can be as much or as little as you'd like. Typically, we would ask as much as possible. We understand everyone has a busy schedule, right? And every mentor on here will say that they don't make necessarily every session, but we would ask that you try to make as many as you can. And in terms of the sessions this year, about an hour and 15 minutes. I think usually our classes pre-COVID were about an hour and a half. So, and we usually get there about an hour, half an hour early for the mentors to sort of prep, and maybe 15 minutes after to clean up, you know, like with the marshmallows and spaghetti, that's a bit of a mess. So there's some cleanup afterwards. And then in terms of actually creating the curriculum, as Monica mentioned, ACE National will help you with any ideas you need, but really they leave it to the mentors. So all the mentors you talk to here usually additionally commit time every year, you know, at the start before the sessions to actually come up with, you know, each year. One of the unique things is we have these students for multiple years. So what we try to do is not do the same thing every year, right? Like, you know, Carlos will tell you he probably built 2 marshmallow towers just because of the way it worked out. But we try to every year, you know, come up with new and unique ideas. So, you know, and Joe and Carol and Marina and Megan and everyone, what we try to do is every year sort of refresh. We find out what works and what didn't. And so one of the options is if you want to join and you want to say, hey, I'm really passionate. I have some ideas. I want to come. You can, and we are more than happy to have them. But if you come and say, listen, that's a bit too much pressure. I don't want to come up with any things. I just want to be here so that I can be a mentor to the students, right? I can be here and talk to them and have a connection with them. That would also be fantastic.
I just wanted to, there was a question earlier at the beginning from Taruna about, do you have to be a licensed architect? And I think everybody, most people before they become a mentor probably ask the question, do I know enough? Am I smart enough? Am I going to be able to teach these kids something? And I would say maybe not 100%, but everybody on this call knows more about their chosen field than high school students. So I think that is that definitely is something that you can be sure of.
One of the mentors from HGA in architecture, mentor for the first 3 years and 3.5 until she just moved this year, Sierra Claiborne. She actually got her license during the time that she was a mentor, as well as did Megan and Marina. I know there may be others. Now, how you study for those exams and do the mentoring, I can't answer that question, but they're overachievers, so they can tell you.
I had a question about the student presentations. Are they similar to something you would do at the School of Architecture, like a crit, where there's feedback from a jury, or are they presenting just to the mentors, or there's an audience, a wider audience that can comment on their projects and give them feedback?
So historically, there is an audience. Obviously, this year's a little bit different, and there still can be an audience virtually. But historically, we'd get them all together, give them a chance to. I think we did it at Marquette for a couple of years, but it gave the students kind of this cool place to visit. They get all dressed up. We have their parents can all come out, but then we also invited certain members of the city to come out. Obviously, like was mentioned earlier, Mayor Barrett was able to make it the first year. But it's usually a handful of people maybe more involved with the project. So for example, we had a couple of years of projects at Marquette University. Then we had people from Marquette that would have actually directly been involved with a project of that scale on that campus that were able to be there and comment on it. But it's really treated as kind of a celebration of their semester, and parents get a chance to see how much they learned and see them dressed up talking in front of everybody about something. So it's always a good event.
And last year we sort of phrased it with, as Emily mentioned, an RFP. So there were two teams. Two teams of about 20 students, and we kind of phrased it throughout. And they really took this on themselves to have a competition, right? Each one wanted to be the better, the better tower, and they wanted to win. So we had some of the board was willing to. They acted as the owner's rep. So at the final presentation, they asked them some questions, right? Why did you make this decision, versus this one? But at the same time, understanding these are students and we don't want to discourage them in any way, right? So it was mainly positive feedback and pointing out the good things they did. But it depends on year to year. But I think the students did enjoy sort of that feedback aspect, right? They liked not only doing the work, but having someone comment on it. So I think that's important for them as well.
Other questions that folks have?
So then for mentoring, if as an architect, I would get paired with a MEP and structural team? Is that kind of how it works, or not necessarily when you put the RFP together and work with a student? I guess that's kind of what I'm not understanding is if I were mentoring, would I have this group of kids then that I have to get them to think about the different aspects of the building?
That's part of the cool part about this program is we have so many mentors. So if you are a mentor for architecture, there's many other architect mentors as well. So we all kind of work together, and in general, we try to have more mentors than students for that reason, right? So say after we do the first 8 weeks where we're all working together and teaching the students about each discipline, then when we do the second half of the season and we're breaking out into those smaller groups, the discipline groups, if there's 10 students that are interested in architecture and 10 mentors, you would all work together. And then let's say, for instance, I think Joe can probably speak more to this, but let's say there's a couple of students that are more interested in working on interior, then maybe a couple of students do a smaller breakout with a few mentors that can guide them in the areas that they're more interested in. So, I mean, if you're considering being a mentor, I would say don't let the fear of having all the responsibility just be on you prevent you from joining, because that's not the case. We're a big team. We all work together, and you're never going to be the only mentor there. So there's always a support system, and it kind of takes the pressure off and it makes it more fun.
Yeah, so in order of magnitude, there's probably going to be, there's probably at any given session, a minimum of 15 to 20 mentors. So you'll never be, let's say, completely outnumbered. And maybe this says something more about me than anything, but one of the things I always enjoyed is, so for some of the sessions, right, when we had an MEP session, Emily might present, give the presentation, but then we break up into smaller groups and the teams get to discuss what she did, or they have a project. And one of the fun things is when you actually learn something new, right? So we go back in and there's some questions that they're learning something, you're like, oh, that's why the pipes go there. Oh, that's, you know, maybe it's something I should have known, but just as a structural engineer, maybe something that I never did. But you do pick up those things. I think that Paula mentioned that was one of Charlie's original goals at the start, is that all these younger, you know, design professionals or construction professionals get to interact, and you actually do. You'd be surprised how much you pick up on when they're, you know, they're trying to teach the students, but you also get to pick up some things along the way.
In my observation, it's a lot like working in the profession. You know, the architects are doing their thing, and then they have some questions like, we want to span 100 feet. They go over to the engineering group and they say, hey, what's it going to take to span 100 feet? And, you know, you kind of talk through that. The architects go back and say, ooh, how do we deal with that 20-foot beam they told us we need? And it really is, it feels, as an observer, it feels a lot like actually working in the profession.
Yeah, and to that point, it's funny how quickly you see sort of relationships that develop between the different disciplines, right? When they ask that question, and the structural engineer will design the beam, and then they'll come back and mechanical will say, well, we want to put a big penetration through it. And then architectural will say, well, that's too deep. And then, you know, you go back and the students are like, what do they want from me? I already designed that. Like, aren't we done already? Why I have to redo this? And it's, you know, it's funny to see those and they say, yeah, that's what you got to do. But it's all in good fun, but they, you know, they go back and forth and they like to give each other a hard time, because they do get a taste of what it is in real life to sort of have to redesign and to actually collaborate with other people, and to not just, you know, the engineers can't just go in a closet and design it and they're done. They actually have to, it has to work with everyone else. So it's fun to see those things. I think particularly when working in the discipline, you can step back and you can, you know, be an observer to see it actually happening in real time. It's kind of fun.
So not sure that everybody's looking at the chat, but I know there was a number of questions and some answers popping in there about what day it is, what time it is. Could Jordan or Emily just go over just a summary of the time, how long it lasts, where it's currently located, when we're in person?
Sure. So ignoring the virtual aspect, if we're in person, it's usually an 1.5 to 2 hour session. In the past, we've met either at HGA, which is downtown Milwaukee, or Gilbane office, which is just a couple miles further north. I think, like Jordan said earlier, usually we'll meet a little bit beforehand, maybe 15 to 30 minutes just to prep and set up the room and the food. And then we'll usually stay after to do the same thing, prep for the next session, and then clean up any sort of mess. You'll find, like, as you get into a rhythm, you don't always need to have an additional session where it's just mentors and you're prepping with each other. Sometimes it's more necessary in the beginning of the season and then as you roll out the project. But in general, it's Tuesdays and then maybe one other night a week where you're prepping for your next session.
And just with an eye on the future, I know there was a question about the participating schools, so I pasted that into the chat. But as we think about next year and think about continued growth and who some of our newer board members are, I think we're positioned well to potentially add a location up on the northwest side of Milwaukee, up by C.G. Schmidt's office. I know we, with our move downtown, have talked about, you know, we're across the skywalk from Kaler Slater, so we would make a logical potential fourth site if we need to expand to fourth site as well.
Well, if there are no more questions or comments, I think we could probably wrap up the session. And I'll do that by thanking one last time Women in Design for the opportunity to share what ACE Mentor is doing in Milwaukee. It's really, really helpful for us to continue to grow the program, to have interest and have people knocking on our door saying, how can I help? How can I participate? So it's the partnership that you reached out to forge with us is really, really appreciated. And we'll see you at more Women in Design events throughout the year. And HGA doesn't let us copy out of the chat, so I took some screen captures of this so that we can follow up with anybody who left things in the chat. All right, well, Taruna and your group, I see Allie here. If I missed anyone else from Women in Design, I apologize. but I'll just kind of leave this Zoom open as everybody leaves if anyone wants to say anything on the way out. Otherwise, have a great night, everyone, and thank you once again.
Before everybody goes, thank you, Paula, for such a wonderful, for coordinating such a wonderful event, and we're so excited to have you as a partner. I do want to remind everyone of our next Women in Design event, which is going to be on February 12th. It's going to we started early on with a speed mentoring event in February typically, and so we're going back to our roots with that, but we're going to be doing it virtually with a fun new program called Glimpse. If nobody's used that yet, we'll get to try out some fun speed mentoring. So definitely we want to make sure that we've got architects and students, so we're making it clear to the professionals here. We'll also be partnering with some other great organizations, AIA Wisconsin, AIAS, Wisco NOMA, and then NOMAS from the student side, and then Women in Design and our Women in Design students. So we've got a great variety, and then thankfully with the partnership and plus of being virtual, we get to reach throughout the entire state by partnering with Wisco NOMA and with AIA Wisconsin. And so thank you so much. I don't know if Lisa's still on, but thank you, Lisa, for the support, and thank you, Turner, for creating the relationship with Wisco NOMA. And we hope to see you all on February 12th. Please register and have a great evening. Oh, I did forget, and we have expanded Women in Design Madison will be joining us also.
Awesome. I look forward to that.
So thank you very much. I guess I'm just blown away that we had 41 people on this call at one point, which is just so wonderful. And thank you everyone for not being too zoomed out by the end of the day today, by the end of the day to join us and to stick with us. So thank you so much. We look forward to putting these programs on and to